was in
Test.
test. Yeah. In those days, it was just the way it was. So anyway, Madam Clerk,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
to the board, would you conduct the roll, please?
Commissioner Flower,
Present.
Commissioner Kanda,
Here.
Commissioner Prince,
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith, and Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Audience introductions. I guess, Miss Kara Evans, I will introduce her. Assistant to the board, administrative assistant to the board, is also present in the commissioner's room today. And do we have anyone on the phone that would like to introduce themselves? Go ahead and introduce yourselves if you're on the teleconference, please.
This is Stephanie Carter with Rustic Happenings.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Anyone else on the call this morning? Alex, do you have a record of how many on?
I just have one other person. I didn't hear if they introduced themselves or not.
Yes, she did. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Any amendments to the agenda, gentlemen?
I have none, sir.
Nor do I. We'll move on. Approval of the minutes. We do not have any minutes to approve today. So, commissioner items. Commissioner Prince, would you like to begin?
Thanks, sir. I had a lot of things on the phone, but I didn't have quite as many meetings as we normally do. On the 8th, I attended the Board of Health meeting, and of course, yesterday we discussed the CARES Act and did something before that. I can't remember. The workshop, thank you. Yeah. So we had the workshop for the CARES Act, and then we had a special board meeting right after that. So that's all I'm up to, other than conversations with a lot of constituents who have significant concerns about the rise in the number of cases we have. It's still relatively low, but percentage-wise, it's significant. We have a major event coming up this weekend, and I heard from both sides, some just thanking us for allowing this to occur, and some who are concerned. But that's what makes America great, that we have two sides to every issue. So that's kind of where I am.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Let me look around the room and see if we have any other commissioners that might have. Oh, we have a birthday commissioner today. Happy birthday to Commissioner Kanda.
Agreed.
So, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations to Jay, too. I understand he's got his store sold, and he's got everything lined up for a great afterlife. Go ahead.
Thank you, Bill. I just want to say the new owners are very pro-Second Amendment, looking forward to working with the entire community on helping their needs. This is personal, but I would never have brought it up, but since you did, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that.
Yeah, same here. I've been doing the same things that you all have. Of course, the main meetings, the CARES Act, the PMR for the towers, I thought was well done. We understand where they are. We still got a long ways to go before we're going to be sure that this is going to happen. It is a program that's in conjunction with the fiber program with the two towns, so that's one of the things that's a very good point to make, because both are needed in order to make the system work. So that's where that is. I've been working with the Booster Club for the Custer County Bobcats, and they are part of the the rodeo event this Friday night and Saturday night. I'll be making hamburgers for everybody and hot dogs, and they've got a great system to keep everybody separated and working to the plan. I think it's going to be a good thing, and we're going to make a few bucks. Not going to be like the past, because there's only 2 events this year, or 2 different days. And also attended the GOP meeting last night, and it's good to have everybody understand that we have a a big event coming up on the 22nd, I think, is a plan to get Alan West up here to speak to the county. That'll be interesting to see. And that's in work. Also been working with the airport. Everything's fine out there. I will not be at the meeting tomorrow. I've got an appointment with a doggone dentist every once in a while. You know, you hit an age where you just got to go to the dentist. So I will be gone tomorrow. Anyway, I think that's all for now. We'll catch up on the other things.
Okay, thank you, sir. Go through my calendar real quickly. July 8th, I also attended the Board of Health meeting. July 9th, set in on a Zoom meeting for Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District. I just wanted to follow up. They had an executive session after their meeting, and it was to determine or to the purpose of the executive session, as stated by the chairman, was to explore and investigate the hiring policies for Upper Ark. Those directors are worked up that their CEO hired his daughter for the secretary without asking anybody. So they're working on that. Of course, I don't know what went on in the executive session. The only motion that came out of the executive session after they were done was to direct the attorney to research and write some hiring policies. And it was also brought up during the discussion of that motion that Upper Ark doesn't have a set of bylaws. They run off of a different set of rules for conservancy districts. It's not a special district, it's a conservancy district, so they run off a whole different deal. But anyway, thought that was interesting. So other than that, there was kind of standard stuff. They did approve their audit from their auditors, gave their report. So they're moving forward. There was some discussion, not at length, but certainly they talked about Round Mountain Water and Sanitation District's efforts to get a storage vessel permitted just south of the Grape Creek RV on property that Round Mountain owns there. So looks to be about 150 acre-foot storage. So I think they asked me what I thought about it. I said, as a commissioner, I would support that. I think that in the long run, I think it will be good for the county if we have an option to lease water and a place to store that water. Who knows what's going to happen, but they want to know my opinion. And I said, well, as the commissioner, this is my opinion of it, and I told them I would support that. And then yesterday I had Nate Eckloff call me and wanted to know if he could have John Brits set in on a conference call to talk about this Justice Center thing. And I said, yeah, I didn't know who John Brits was, but obviously Brits is a company that in this proposal that Piper Sandler gave us, that they were going to subcontract with Brits to do any kind of, any kind of surveying. So we talked about that some, and there's no reason for me to go through that because we're going to go through it again this later on the agenda. But I just wanted you to know I did visit with them a little bit. And then also attended the CARES Act funding workshop yesterday, along with the other commissioners and the mayors of both towns. And then we had a special board meeting that I attended for the broadband tower project, as you both have mentioned. So that is kind of my calendar. I've got some other things I want to bring up to the commissioners, but get rid of this.
I had a quick second.
Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
I forgot a couple things that should have been brought up. Excuse me. Regarding the health board, because not everybody attends the health board meetings, and we did have that after the last meeting. And What we have right now is a survey out. I hate to call it a survey. It's a survey is as good as anything. Questionnaire that's out in the public at all the businesses and with people as well, and anybody that can comment can do that. It's online to understand where we stand with the current restrictions, the guidelines, and recommendations from the state and from the county. So we want to see how everybody feels about how things are going right now, and if they think there's some things that could be done better or worse. This is an effort to make sure everybody understands the public health agency works with the people and wants to help people, not to get in the way and tell you what you can't do. We want to tell you how to help you do the right thing. So that's out there. If you see that form, mayors have got it in their possessions. They're taking it around personally, business to business, person to person. And please fill it out, make comments, and we need to see them. Also, we have vacancies opened. They hit the papers. We did get it in time, and one of them, they'll be in both notices, but the Director for Health Department closes on the 20th, I believe, and the OEM position is the 27th, I think. And we've got several applying for that now. We've got a lot of time to pick it, and several good candidates are out there applying now. So I want to make sure everybody knew that was out and working. And I think that's all I had for now. Thanks.
Okay,
Let me
you
catch
bet.
up.
So, continuing, I want to clarify something, then I'll move on with the rest of my commissioner items. Certainly, I've come under fire in the last month or so, both by email, by phone call, and personal conversation about my participating in ganging up on Commissioner Kanda, participating with Commissioner Prince and ganging up on Commissioner Kanda. I think it started when I made the motion to strike the agenda item that said lifting all restrictions. That's when I started hearing it. So I just want to say to my fellow commissioners and to anyone that cares to listen, I don't base my vote on who it's going to line up with, whether it's with Commissioner Kanda or Commissioner Prince. There are going to be times when all three of us disagree. Disagree. If we bear or fall to the political pressure of, hey, you have to vote with so-and-so all the time, it looks bad for you, then we're in trouble. There are times in recent history when I disagreed with Commissioner Kanda, and I voted that way. There are times when I disagreed with Commissioner Prince, and I voted that way. It doesn't matter to me whether we're Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated. That has nothing to do with it. I will vote based on what I believe is right for this county, based on two things: my ability to research and my ability to think as an independent person. I will not base my voting on anything just because somebody else voted for it, was a Republican or not. That has nothing to do with it. So with all due respect to both of you, I just wanted to say that and get that up front. As it turned out, there were things Commissioner Kanda brought to the board I didn't agree with. I'm going to vote against that. I would expect that both of you would do exactly the same, and if you didn't, I'd be disappointed in you as commissioners, because that's how the process is designed to work, and that's how it should work. So enough of that. I want to move on. I want to bring up a couple things. They're not novel by any stretch of the imagination, but I want to get them on the table and see where we go from here. I would suggest that the Board of County Commissioners consider hiring a CARES Act coordinator. We talked about it yesterday in our meeting, not that, but we talked about the whole CARES Act thing. And the commissioners have agreed to be the, I guess for lack of a better word, the fiscal agent and the responsible entity for that whole CARES Act, the final funding mechanism. And I think we should consider hiring a coordinator to run the CARES Act on behalf of the county and the two towns. And I also think that we should ask the Board of Health if they would consider hiring a COVID coordinator and use, or with the intent of requesting reimbursement to the CARES Act for both of those positions. So I know we got to be careful about talking to Board of Health, but certainly, we can talk about the CARES Act. If you don't mind, let me just finish real quick, and then let's come back and we can have that discussion. And then, as I indicated, I did talk with John Brits of the Brits Company and Nate Eckloff representing Piper Sandler about moving forward on whether or not we're going to move forward on the Justice Center funding mechanism. We'll talk about that later. I also got a call from Bill Sutton, KTLF, asking where we were with the whole placing a radio on the lookout mountain up on the tower, specific tower that was given to us by Sangre de Cristo Electric. So I just bring that up because I think we need to get some traction on that and make a decision about where we're going there. So, yes, yeah. So, yeah. So I just think we need to peel the layers back off of that and find out where we stand, what we have decided or didn't decide, and move forward. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. We met last year. My name is Josh Hopkins. I'm from the KTLF
Yep.
Radio Network. Just kind of seeing where
Okay,
we were at with that.
good. You're welcome to pull a chair and have a seat right there if you'd like to. We're trying to maintain our social distancing here. Was that beard as long and bushy as it was last year, or?
Probably not as bushy, but
Okay.
probably as long.
All right, well, pretty,
Hard to get a beard trim right now.
yeah, pretty good growth. Well, welcome. Thanks for being here. So, in that vein, then, I would like to at least have a little conversation about this KTLF thing. I know it's not an agenda item today, so we're not going to vote on it. But at least maybe we can have a conversation. I've asked Kara if she could kind of dig through her files. I don't know what she was able to find because it was right before the meeting started. But yeah, we could do that during public comment too as well. So, so some conversation about the possibility of hiring a CARES Act coordinator. You had something you wanted to say, Commissioner Prince?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not an agenda item, so my recommendation is first of all, let's have a Board of Health meeting on the 31st after our regular BOCC meeting so that we can discuss a COVID coordinator. You kind of hit me, we don't get to speak a lot in between meetings because of the sunshine laws, so you're really kind of hitting me with this cold. But my first reaction is it sounds like it certainly would fit within the CARES Act and the money that the county is going to get. So my suggestion is let's put this as an agenda item on the 31st, and then we could make some recommendations at that time, or not make recommendations, but we can have a formal discussion about it then. I'm concerned about doing it now without it being an agenda item.
No, I didn't want to do it now. I just want to have a conversation.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
and that's fair enough. And hiring is a buzzword, either with money or a volunteer. And if we can get in the CARES sense, it could be reimbursed. That's probably the best way to go. But that's something we do need to consider, I believe.
Okay, so you would agree with putting that on the agenda on the 31st?
Right, on the 31st.
So could we do
think so.
consideration of, let's put hiring, if that's all right,
Yeah,
with
I think
respect
that's
to what you
fine.
just said,
Yeah.
Commissioner Kanda, consideration of hiring a CARES, all capital letters, Act coordinator.
And I want you to know I have been in contact with Greg Felt, Chaffee County, to find out how they're handling there. So I was going to suggest we wait till then anyway to talk about it because we'll have more data.
And then Commissioner Prince, you just mentioned a Board of Health meeting on the 31st. I wasn't aware of that. Are
There
you
isn't one
suggesting-
scheduled. He said he would like to see
I'm
one.
suggesting it so that we could talk about the COVID.
And
If we wanted to discuss a COVID person, that would be the appropriate way
And
to
in
do that.
fact, I had planned to get that scheduled after this meeting. We're going to try to get it for that time because that's the right time to do it for several reasons. And then we've got the minutes I want to hand out from that meeting also before that happens. We've got those. John Adams has it ready for us. I just want to get it out to everybody first. So that'll be next.
So we're a little off target here, but tentatively, then we need to schedule a Board of Health meeting on our
I'm
calendars.
looking at 1 o'clock
31st.
on that day.
On the 31st?
Yes.
I think Alyssa Livengood sent an email, said she would be available. Well, let me check. Maybe that wasn't a date.
Well, and we'll have to see, if that'll be a good time to take a look at. By then, we will have to discuss how we're selecting the people that have applied for her position, which will happen between now and then. So we'll see how that plays out. May have to have a special board meeting for the actual consideration of the applicants. Well, for then.
Yeah. Can you gentlemen find the email? I'm looking here.
July 20, 27, and August 3.
Okay, so she's not available on the 31st. I would like to have a Board of Health meeting when she is available. The 20, could you say those again, sir? 22, 27?
20, 27, August 3.
August 3. I would certainly support meeting on the 27th.
Yeah, we'll see.
27th works fine for me.
And we'll see how it plays out with where we are. So I'll schedule it when it's time. But you're available
Well-
on the 27th, and you're available on the 20th?
Yeah, again, I would appreciate you scheduling it when we all agree and we can all be there.
That's what I want to do.
Oh, okay.
That's what I said.
All right. Well, I heard you say you'll schedule
Well,
it.
let's see, but it depends on other things too, Tom, data and other things that we got to have. So.
I'm good on either the 20th or the 27th. I could make them both work.
20, 27, August 3.
Just 3 days, okay. We're good.
Yeah, I would prefer not to do it on the 20th because that would be before the deadline.
That's my thought too. That's why we
So,
got to make
But
sure.
the 27th
everything's
works
timed.
for me.
27th was lining out right now for the special meeting. Hopefully everything will be in by then.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Kando, I'm going to move my calendar to the 1 o'clock on the 27th. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, and I just think it would be irresponsible for us to try not to set a meeting when our public health director, I mean, I just think she needs to be
We
there.
also have the 3rd to deal with as well. What were we going to bring up?
I was going to ask when the Board of Health, never mind. No,
Okay. Okay, let me get back on task here. So, yeah, just, again, I certainly believe that a coordinator's salary would be a reimbursable expense, so
Seems to
we
me
can have
it's
that discussion as we
directly
go
related.
along. Yeah, yeah, so, that's all really I have, thank you. Anything else under commissioner items, gentlemen?
good point bringing those up.
Thank you, appreciate it. Upper Ark, again, I reported during my commissioner item that I attended that meeting. So I really don't have anything else, gentlemen, do you?
I do not.
All right, thanks. Attorney items?
I've worked with Jackie Hobby on a few things since our last meeting. I attended the Board of Health meeting last week and the workshop and the special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners yesterday. Been doing some research into the way our library district is set up. Our Sean Bahari, who's the director of the West Custer County Library District, is on the agenda today, and we had some questions about why we do things the way we do with the library, and I had the same misunderstanding. I thought the library district was exactly like the other special districts we have, the fire protection district, the hospital district, the water and sanitation district, and it's not. It's set up under a different statute entirely. But since Sean is here, we can talk to him about this, about the necessity of the Board of County Commissioners ratifying a appointments to their board of trustees and approving other things. The reason that Sean is here is seeking, I thought it was seeking approval of somebody wanted to
Appointment.
make a donation.
Well, no, that's the 31st. Today's the appointment of a new board member.
All right, so we can talk about that, but it's, that's all I've done since our last meeting.
Thank you, sir. I'm just dying to know if the administrative assistant has anything she'd like to bring to us today. All right. Okay, public comment. If anybody has anything they want to comment to the Board of County Commissioners, now would be the time to do that, as long as it does not pertain to an item that's on the agenda to be discussed later. So if I may, then I would like to ask Josh for some comments or whatever you have, sir, for us. Would appreciate that. I know you were here. I can't remember when exactly, but to talk about KTLF's, the possibility of your radio station putting a radio up on Lookout Mountain.
Yeah, we probably just over a year ago.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
probably just over a year ago, we stopped by to speak about getting ourselves on there. I know the previous owners before it was we were in talks with before it was the power company, then we were in talks with the power company, and then it reverted to you guys. And we had submitted one of our standard contracts about a year ago, as asked, as a sample of what we would normally do and provide. And so we just kind of wanted to follow up on that whole process.
Okay. Yeah, I think certainly I am remiss of having kept that on the front burner. Certainly don't have a problem with going back and starting that process again.
Okay.
I'm as guilty as anybody using COVID for an excuse, but have not even remotely thought about that since March 1st, I'll be honest with you. But
all right.
commissioners, comments or
What
thoughts?
day was that we actually were out of town?
No, I did not. I came here to the meeting, and there were some other questions.
Go ahead, Ms. Kara. Thank you.
They were on the
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
So
And
not a
do-
year ago.
Do you have, were you able to find a copy of that sample contract or not? Okay. I looked, I couldn't find it.
There was one that was emailed over.
Okay. Let me look again. What other name would that have been under?
It probably would have come from my email address.
Okay.
Which is joshua@ktlf.org. I can easily resend that again.
Yeah.
That's what I was
maybe
just going to
we'll
ask.
have
If
to
you would
ask you to
resend it, I would really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no worries.
That'd be great, because every once in a while I purge my computer, and not that I intentionally purged what you had, but it
No,
is
it
possible.
happens.
They get purged
Yeah.
you, Jay.
Yeah, it happens.
No, it
Yeah.
happens all the time, and it's not a big deal. So,
Okay.
basically, what it was sent, just to do a description of it again, it's just the standard agreement we have with site owners of, where we're typically liable for stuff and what we provide out there, and then, protections for both sides. That's really
Yeah.
what the agreement
Okay.
was that was sent over. So,
Yeah, I did a quick search and I didn't come up with anything,
Okay.
but if you could resend that.
absolutely.
This happens to be, yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, so, and just as information, I don't think we have a lot of people on the teleconference today, but this is a light Christian
Correct.
radio station.
It's completely nonprofit, so there's no ads, there's no marketing. All it does is provide light Christian inspirational music until 7 p.m., at which time it's what we call our reflections. It is instrumental only till about 4 a.m.
Okay,
There are a few programs on there from places like Focus on the Family that air early in the morning or right before the reflection time period. Other than that, it's just music.
okay. And I'll show my ignorance here, the dial number.
I don't have the FCC document in
Okay.
front of me, so I'm not quite sure. The construction permit's valid until February of next year.
Okay.
But I think we'd like to get it done well before that if possible.
Sure. Okay. Gentlemen, would you be willing to consider this on the 31st as an agenda item?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Ms. Kelly, would you then put consideration of approving KTLF's request for an antenna on Lookout Mountain?
Correct. So we'd have a transmitter in the building that's just below with the other ones. It would be a low power transmitter, so it wouldn't, interference-wise, we'd have bandpass filters and other things to maintain the integrity of whoever else is broadcasting in the area.
Okay, very good. Would you be interested in coming back on the 31st?
Absolutely.
We could probably deal with it without, but if there was some questions, where do you live?
I'm in the Springs.
In the Springs?
Yeah, it's not far.
You don't mind?
No, because we have to
Okay.
come out to other sites that we have
Okay.
around here anyways. So it's just like today, we'll be going up to Salida and Buena Vista anyways. So
Okay.
it's kind of making a circle for me.
Okay, so it would be a little later in the day than now, probably closer to 10 or 10:30 by the time we get to an agenda item, but that
That's
would
fine.
be great. Go ahead, sir.
I recognize it's going to be an item for the 31st, but just a question I have right now. We have other equipment on that tower. Is there bleed over, or is there
No, that's
interference with each other?
Well, there definitely can be, but the equipment that we're putting there is newer equipment specifically designed to not allow interference across bands. That's not to say that it can't and or won't happen. There are things that are outside of control, such as atmospheric conditions. We were receiving, I can't remember the numbers, but hippie something was, because of a solar flare, was overriding our stuff in Colorado Springs from out past Montrose. So there are environmental factors that there's no way to control those things. However, with the right kind of filters and equipment, and you can test for those things, there should be no bleed over.
Great, thank you very much.
So in the old days, it was call sign, call numbers. Is that the correct terminology?
Yes, and so our call numbers specifically won't be KTLF here. They will be assigned out by the FCC.
Okay.
We have preliminary numbers and letters, but until we act on the construction permit, they're not finalized.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But
Appreciate
I will
that.
get you what we have.
Okay, all right. Anything else for Josh this morning?
Thanks for coming. I'm sorry we let this slip through the crack. It's not something we do often. I apologize.
Everything has been busy for us as well, and so as much as we want to get out here and get it done as well, we have a responsibility as well to follow up.
Yeah,
So you guys
okay.
aren't the only ones that let
Yeah.
it slip through.
All right, well, thank you, and thanks for swinging by today, too.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Gentlemen, any unfinished business that I'm not aware of?
I have none, sir.
None here.
Nor do I. New business, we'll allow public comment on any action items. The first item under new business is discussion with Piper Sandler and John Brits concerning the funding mechanisms for the Justice Center. Gentlemen, are you on the call? Nate, are you on the call this morning? Okay, they asked about a time, and I roughly guessed 10 o'clock, so we're a little early. So by consent, if you're okay with no objection, if we can deal with them if they do come on. Alex, I would ask if you have some other folks come on, let me know that, and maybe we can insert that discussion. It is a discussion item. I don't believe we're making any decisions today. So I think we're okay with moving that down the agenda, gentlemen. You all right with that? Okay, thank you. Next item is consideration of hiring a human resource finance assistant, I would turn the floor over to Commissioner Prince for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had this discussion several times over the last couple of years about the HR finance position that we have now, the director, and it's come to the forefront in my mind. I have multiple concerns. One is I believe that our current HR finance director is absolutely overworked. I drive past here at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night and see our current director's car out here. On the weekends it's here. She has mentioned to us several times that it's very hard for her to complete her tasks, mainly because so many things come into HR and finance that need to be handled immediately. Things need to be put on the side. So I think we're hurting ourselves in the county of not having an HR finance director, a deputy director. The second thing that I'm very concerned about is God. And what I mean by that is, heaven forbid, our person gets run over by a school bus or some other catastrophe occurs. We would be in a terrible world of hurt in the county because we don't have an adequate backup, in my opinion. And that is my opinion, and I could be totally wrong on that. But I'm very concerned about that. In speaking with the current HR finance director, she's indicated to me that she feels a backup to her is a good idea. The concern that we both had was, is this a position that would be a good full-time position just as a deputy HR finance director? And the answer was, we don't really know. There may be some slack time that is really not necessary. So I think we could write into a job description that if time allows, and if there's time not necessary for the HR finance deputy director's job, that person could do like Ms. Brenda Gady, who was our assistant at one time, used to do, would go from department to department and say, how can I help you? Also, if the deputy director has grant writing experience, that certainly would be a plus. So I would like, and I'm going to do this as a motion so that we just put on the table and discuss. I'd like to move that the county hire a deputy HR finance director, and we can work on the parameters of what that job entails. But I really feel we need a qualified full-time backup person just in case. We'd be in a world of hurt without it. So that's my motion.
I'll second it so we can discuss.
Okay. Chair probably going to call a point of order here. This was listed on the agenda as a discussion item, not as a consideration or an action item. So,
It is
It says
consideration.
consideration on mine.
oh, I'm sorry.
I
I
put
was
it
on
down-
the wrong
I
line.
put it down as
Yes.
consideration.
Sorry. My apologies. I went back up to the discussion, the word discussion on Piper Sandler. So, yeah, I stand corrected. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we hire a human resource finance assistant, and I know you said deputy. I did a little checking on that. That terminology is really not correct. Deputies typically are deputy positions to elected officials, and so I'm thinking that an assistant director would be the appropriate wording.
I stand corrected, and I appreciate
You're
that.
good with that,
Thank you.
sir?
I'm good with it.
Yeah. So it's been moved and seconded that we consider hiring an assistant director to the Human Resource Finance Department. Discussion. So if I may, to follow up, I agree with, I think, most of what you said. Certainly, I believe Ms. Hobby's plate is certainly full, if not overflowing. But I would support this more for the second part of your description about having a backup to that job. I spoke with Ms. Hobby yesterday. I told her I didn't this sounds a little ignorant, but this isn't about Donna Hobby. This is about an assistant to that job. I want to make it clear that this is not some beginning of a movement to replace her or to do whatever to subvert her. Has nothing to do with that. This is a business practice, in my opinion, about having someone qualified to do her job in the event she could not or is unable to do that.
And Mr. Chairman, that is why during my entire discussion, her name was never used. This is for the betterment of the county, and I'm concerned about the position. On a side note, I think Ms. Hobby does a wonderful job, and this is not reflecting anything on her other than I think an assistant to help is necessary, and I think it's only fair and just to do that.
I agree, and so I have some other comments. Just make sure everybody understands, Donna Hobby has two jobs. One's the HR director, the other one's the director of finance. A lot of work. And I in fact, I was going to try to bring this up at one of these meetings and put it on the agenda, and Jay beat me to it. Because, but she does. And so, but let's find out, there's several other things that we got to consider as we do this. When I first came on as commissioner, we had Brenda Gady, as you mentioned already, and she was already basically taking on a lot of the finance backup kind of things, and that was great. And I think we even formalized that, in fact, so that Donna, and we started paying a little half-time salary to accommodate that. And then that somehow has gone away. I also understand that perhaps Kara is going to be leaving soon. We got to fill that job. That's what I understand at some point, whenever that's on the table. And that was the position that we had that second option to have a backup, which made sense because that person was scheduling meetings, would be able to attend the meeting if Donna couldn't, all those kinds of things that we need to figure out and work as we figure out whether we're bringing on a new person. It's hard to find somebody half-time, but maybe not, so we'll see. But those are things that I think we need to discuss and see how do we fill the position, all these positions.
Right. Bill, I completely agree with what you just said. The way I'm feeling and kind of the way I hoped I put the motion out was that the position is really an assistant to the HR finance director, and any adjunct opportunities that come up, if there's some time available, that person then could help fill in other areas. So I don't want to make the HR position the secondary position. For example, when Ms. Gady was here, she was the assistant to the county commissioners, and in her free time she helped Hobby. I really would like to switch that around and make the position an assistant to the HR finance director, and then when there's free time, move away. So the primary focus is to be ready to step in if something occurs, and that's just good business in any organization, in my opinion.
Necessary. She's filling two positions now that are needed in the county. Donna is.
Yeah, I guess my comments would be that I would continue to make sure that we approach this as an assistant director, not an assistant. In my opinion, we're not hiring her some additional help. We're hiring someone that can learn to do her job.
Absolutely correct.
Okay. So I'm not discounting that she could use the help, but I would insist that this person, if we hire somebody, be trained to have the ability to function as a human resource finance officer if that need arose.
Well, I agree, but it's got to be clear. I think the finance job is a big job, and Donna does require some support. That's all full-time, my view, every day kind of support, whether it's a quarter of an hour or 8 hours, or whatever it is. They got to have somebody to help that workload, which is point you made, Donna, I've seen it. I've seen other people concerned about it, that have mentioned it as well. We need help. And I think it's a great opportunity to do that.
Well, and for the record, let me just state that our administrative assistant works half-time for the commissioners and half-time as an assistant to Donna Hobby.
That's the point.
Human resource.
Right.
So if that was a point I missed it, I'm sorry, but she does have help right now.
But
But is she getting it? That's what I'm
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
Kara certainly
So that's
assists
why I was
her.
concerned.
however, we need someone who is fully qualified and trained, that in the event it becomes necessary, someone could step into that position. And I think the way we have it set up now, that is going to be very, very difficult to happen.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has believed, including myself, and I think Kara or Donna, I don't think that was the assumption that Kara was going to be trained to become an assistant director. Her job was to spend half of her time
Right.
assisting the finance director.
So right now, everything's peachy keen. Donna has enough time. Kara's doing the job, right? Kara, you're.
Yeah, I'm helping Donna, absolutely.
I just don't-
Speak for though if Donna has enough time on everything
That's
she has going on.
okay. All right.
But you believe part of your schedule is to assist her, and obviously I
That's
see
the way
it
I
every
understood
day.
it.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it's not that she doesn't have help currently. We go back to this whole
Backup.
backup, somebody that can do her job completely if she is unable to do that. So I think the big question in my mind is that half-time, is that full-time, what would that look like? And I think we just need to flesh that out as we go along.
And whether or not our admin would be able to, whether it's Kara or anybody else, would be had the time to do both jobs too. I mean, we got if that's where we're going. Otherwise, we're hiring us. I think you wanted a separate person, didn't you, Jay?
Well, what I'm concerned about, I'm concerned that if the primary function is BOCC admin, and some of your time over at HR Finance, we're not going to have a qualified backup. So I think we need that position as primary, and if we use that person then as the BOCC admin for those couple of hours that are needed for our meetings and whatever, I could go along with that. I'm just very concerned.
Maybe. I know we're getting awful busy here as an admin-wise. It's hard. Kara's busy.
Well,
I like to find her once in a while, and she's busy. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
understand.
tough, and you have the same thing.
Really, my thought was, and the way I presented it was, I think we need to hire a full-time person whose primary job is backup to HR Finance, who is also a floater, who can, if there's time, if the
Free agent for everything else.
Exactly. If
We'd have
there-
our own BOCC admin in the meantime.
If there's
That
excess
secondary
time-
work would be going away.
Right. If they have excess time at HR Finance, rather than sit around and twiddle their thumbs, which no one in this county does, then that person could go over and say to treasurer, clerk, whatever, is there something I can help you with? So kind of like Brenda used to do. So to me, I think a new full-time position whose primary goal is to learn that position and get it down pat, just in
That
case.
clarifies it more for me because I thought we were using our admin at half-time already, and we were going to. So that makes sense, actually. A full-time admin is a pretty big job here, I think.
And that's why we're discussing it, so we come up with what we feel is appropriate, if anything at all. We may just want to leave it the way it is. It's,
Yeah, so your motion was to hire a full-time assistant director. I think in the wording I said it's been moved and seconded to consider hiring. If the motion is to hire, then that's what we're going to vote on. And
My
then we
motion
sort
was to
out. That's
My
correct.
motion was to hire.
Yes. So I just want to make that clarification. I inadvertently threw in consider hiring, and your motion was to hire. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, that helps a bunch because that's a good way to look at it. Because if we were going to share an admin time, that would, in my view, that would be confusing. So, and we need a full-time admin too. I mean, there's a lot of things I'd like to have an admin doing that I can't get to, and you guys too. A lot of things that it would be very useful. So
And there's a
I'm
lot
all
of
for
truth
it.
to that, Bill. I mean, I've called here and wanting to discuss something with the admin and to learn that she's overworking with HR, and I'm fine. I mean, we
Making
need to
phone
be very
calls. There's a lot of things an admin needs to do. You're right.
Yeah, let me just.
It's just a conversation, Jay.
No, I agree.
Not
I agree.
debating you.
We're not debating, we're discussing. And we're discussing the way we're supposed to discuss. I'm perfectly fine with this. The only thing I'm saying is, you know, a lot of times we have the person over there, and, you know, what I wanted to say is we need to be very judicious with taxpayer money. Hiring another person is probably going to be $50,000 to $70,000 of taxpayer money we're going to hire with benefits and everything. I'm guessing somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's a significant expense to the county. And the question is, do we really need it? And that's really the question I'm going through in my mind. And that's when I came to make the motion. My mind, I think we probably do. But that discussion, I could change my mind if you feel I'm wrong.
Well, my thought is that we need to deal with this motion on the merits of the motion itself. I think we're muddying the waters if we start talking about administrative assistant. If we're going to hire an assistant director, then that's the motion.
I agree. The only point was we had her doing finance that had to be brought up, and that would change, Tom, with this if we go along with this.
Right. And the motion
That's
also
fine.
included that if there was free time for the assistant at HR, that she would assist, or he, the person, let me rephrase, I don't mean to be sexist in any way. The person would then have an opportunity to fill in, because we don't know if it's going to be full-time over there or if there's some free time. So, but I'm willing to put my neck out on the line and say, let's hire a full-time person with the intent of HR finance assistant, with the understanding that if there is some slack time, they could help Vern, treasury, clerk, upstairs with extensions. I mean, there's so many areas that we always
Septic
need
system.
help. So, whatever. Okay, so that was the motion, was for both.
Is that what you had, Ms. Kelly?
I didn't have that because sometimes your motions get a little long.
I agree, and you can stop me when I do that and be more concise so I can write it down. I'm fine with that. I will never be upset with you.
To hire
A full-time assistant, okay. So
Job description to
then if that's the case, and that's what you have, let me do this. Can I amend my motion?
You may.
Okay, let me amend the motion to, my motion is to hire an assistant HR finance director with the understanding that if there is free time, this person would help other areas within the county.
There's other job duties as miscellaneous or whatever. There's a way to say that. I know there is.
Well, I
I've
tried to
seen it.
say other areas of the county.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the main motion to include the words "and to help with other areas in the county government as needed."
If available, if time is available. Let me rephrase that.
Okay. Discussion. So, discussion pertaining to the amendment. I struggle a little. Either we need a full-time assistant director or we don't. We don't know that, really, as you have indicated. I'm not real thrilled about the whole idea of a floater, to be honest with you. I want to utilize the hours of a full-time position, certainly. Do we believe we need a full-time position as an assistant director? I can't answer that for sure. I think personally we need a little more input. I'm tempted to postpone, to make a motion to postpone until we get some more information, specifically maybe from Donna, get her input. I just feel a little uncomfortable going off the rails to hire a full-time position without some additional information. I'm not sure I'm qualified to know all that information today.
Let me make a comment then too,
Go ahead.
because I'm sort of headed there anyway. I think about postponement, but look at it this way: Donna's single string. She is a single point of failure if she were to get sick, or you mentioned getting run over. That's the finance function of this county business is critical. And so, and we've gotten lucky that Donna is got the work ethic she does and the ability to stay healthy and willing to work and be overloaded. I believe we do need to hire somebody. We're growing a little bit here as a county, and our business is expanding. A lot of things are happening. So there's two ways to approach it. We get that on and then work the details of the new job description, because we don't have it yet, with Donna. And then as it rolls out, if it's 3/4 time or 8/10 time, and we add the descriptions as we see, I think that's a better way to work it. Or we can do the exact same thing, have Donna also being overworked to help us figure out what we're going to do to hire somebody, so it's two ways of looking at it. We're going to get to the same end either way, and it's I think we just need to hire somebody.
If I may, sir. Yes. I'm in favor of moving on the motion, hire the full-time person. I just added the caveat because we don't know how much time is going to be needed in the event there is free time. But I think that's true with every every division in here, in the county. If there's some free time, rather than sit around and read a magazine, they ought to be helping other areas if they can. So I think that's just good work ethic. I put that in there just because we don't know how long it will be.
It could be quite a while, because she's going to have to work with Sam DiNardo. You got to get up to speed.
Exactly.
There's a lot of training going to be involved. We've got to get a backup.
Right. So I'm in favor of moving forward with it as a full-time position, and I just threw the rest of it in as a saving grace in case we don't need a full-time position. I don't know, but I do know she needs, I don't want to say she, that position is more than a one-person job. And the backup is the most important thing to me.
So I wonder, as a friendly amendment to your amendment, to say, and it's typical in personnel job descriptions, and other duties as assigned by the commissioners. Is Kelly going to go to this person and say, I need you this afternoon? Is she going to have that authority?
Absolutely.
We could make that, but that's something you're right, Tom.
I don't believe that should be the case. So,
Well, I think your suggestion is certainly worthwhile, but I think the primary job, the full-time job, is to be the assistant to the HR finance, only at a time that the director of HR finance says, well, I really don't have anything for you right now. Maybe you could.
But that's not part of your
your
motion.
time could be used elsewhere.
We understand, but I like what Tom said, that when we hire, we're going to write a job description, and in order to cover that eventuality that could happen, just duties is assigned.
yeah, I think that's probably the route to go. It comes down to who's going to assign those duties. Is the finance director going to have the authority to tell that person to go work for someone else? Or is that a commissioner's thing?
The commissioner would give her that authority if that turns out.
Well, I would like the HR director to be the one who determines
Availability.
exactly if the person has time to do something else. And then we could work out the details on how do we determine where that person would go to assist until such time as they need to do their primary job, which is HR finance.
Procedure could be the HR director comes in and says, here's what I'd like her to do, you guys, or him, here's what I'd like.
I mean, this is one of the things I hate about government. So, as the motion in the amendment stated, someone, it's not clear who, could decide that this person needs to go help Road and Bridge or help Ivan as watering the lawn or mowing the lawn.
As approved by the
See,
commissioners.
so that's what I'm struggling with.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're getting too far into the weeds at the moment on this. I think that would be determined when we write the job description and we approve the job description. I think we can put in how the delineation takes place between when the function, when they're not functioning. I think the real question on the table
How you would
is,
get approval and by who.
right, I think we could do all that after we've made the conscious decision that we're going to hire a full-time HR assistant, HR finance assistant, recognizing that there we don't know, may be some time available, and we'll take into the job description that consideration at that time. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Further discussion on the amendment, which is to add the words "to help in other areas in the county as needed if time is available." Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on the amendment as just stated. All in favor say aye. Commissioner Kanda?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Commissioner Flower votes aye. Motion carries, or the amendment carries, I'm sorry. We will now vote, or further discussion on the main motion, which is to hire an assistant director to the to hire an HR finance assistant director. Further discussion? So who do you anticipate writing the job description?
Well, I know we kind of muddy sometimes the areas of responsibility. I would be happy to sit down with the current director and we can hash it out, come up with a recommendation, and I'll bring it before the board for further discussion or approval.
Right.
And would that include a salary range?
Absolutely.
Are you, by consent, are you okay with that, Commissioner Kanda?
Yes.
As am I. I would appreciate you doing that. Thank you for offering.
It's my pleasure.
Further discussion? So the timing, posting deadlines, all of that would be forthcoming after this motion's voted on.
So let's, do you want to set, when we would look at that, can you get it ready by the next meeting?
I would
Make that part.
assume that I could have a draft
For us to
for us
consider.
by July 31st for us to look at and start discussing, and we can work through the details once we have a draft in front of us and fine-tune it till we're
Okay.
comfortable.
One other topic I'd like to bring up then for you to consider as you move forward with this is where we're going to house this person.
Well, there is a separate, I thought about that. Behind the current front office, there is a dungeon. and I mean that sincerely. It used to be the jail. There is an office there. So
In the current finance
in the
area.
current finance room, I think they need to be together, and there is a room there. It's used now somewhat for storage. The three of us have been there many times looking at resumes and things like that. I think that would be a good start.
Okay, just a comment. Certainly not an acceptable solution for me, but as you said, it may have to be a place to start. Not thrilled with that becoming an office, but I just think it's something we're going to have to consider.
Well, let's get a new justice center built, and we'll have plenty of room. This is our problem. This
Yeah.
is a problem in the county. I mean, we don't have space. I hope the public recognizes that this justice center is not a whim. It's a necessity, absolutely. And these are the kind of problems we face when we're trying to run government in a facility that is really not designed to handle all the functions that we do.
If I may, I'd like to ask Kelly, anything come to your mind about office space other than the jail cells that we're using for storage and filing?
we're getting into the weeds again. I think that can be
Yeah, I
dealt
think
with.
I think it's germane to the motion, though. If we don't have
Well,
a place to hire
that's
or
right.
to
The fact-
office somebody, should we be hiring somebody? That would be my point. I'm not saying I believe in that, but I do think it's germane.
Sure. I didn't say it wasn't germane. and we covered that with the fact that he's got a temporary solution, possibly, that when we talk about it on the 31st, it's included. Maybe there'll be a better answer by then.
Right, but I think it's close to the director, the assistant director makes sense in my mind, and hopefully down the road we'll fix it.
Further discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on the main motion as amended, which states that we will hire an HR finance assistant director to help in other areas of county government as needed if time allows in that schedule.
Aye.
All in favor say aye. Commissioner
Aye.
Kanda, Commissioner Prince.
Aye.
Commissioner Flower votes aye. Motion carries. We will move forward on the hiring process for a new HR finance assistant director. And I just will tell you, gentlemen, I will be a stickler that the title is assistant director and not assistant.
I'm fine with that, and that's what it will say.
Didn't hear me argue.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's easy to say an assistant. To me, that's two totally different job descriptions. So, all right, with that, we will move on. Thank you. Consideration of ratification of appointment of the library trustee. Go ahead, Alex.
We had a few want to go back to that first agenda item?
Okay, yeah, you were getting walked over. I'm assuming you said that you have folks on the phone pertaining to the first agenda item? Is that correct?
Talk about the Justice Center.
Are they on the line?
This is Nate Eckloff. I can get John Brits hooked up right away, actually, because
Take a break.
he's available, so I can just conference him in real quickly if you don't mind.
Yeah, and then I may ask you to hold once you get him on the line, just to hold for a couple of minutes if you don't mind. But yes, I'm fine with that. I heard counsel say that, so yeah, go ahead, and then we'll get back to you.
I'll conference John in, and then we can unmute when you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I understood counsel to say that Sean Bahari was here. Did you mean physically? Was he out in the hallway or?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, he is on the phone now. So I would suggest, gentlemen, if you're okay with that, let's go ahead and deal with the consideration of ratifying the appointment. I don't think it'll be a long, drawn-out thing. Then we'll take a little break, and then we'll come back to the first agenda. You okay with that, gentlemen? All right, Mr. Sean, go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you. So we are asking you to ratify a new trustee, Claudia Cole. A trustee that you ratified last year, Nicole Parsons, needed to resign due to her graduate studies. But we're hoping to return to the library after her studies are done. Claudia Cole is a former assistant director at the library from a few years ago. So she has some updates to do on her current practices, so that's easy enough. And she is very knowledgeable about the local history of the community and has lived in Hillside for a few decades, for most of my life actually. So we're hoping that you ratify her. We believe that she would be an excellent asset to the library.
Thank you, sir. Is Claudia on the call today, Sean?
She's not on the call today.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Prince?
I'll go ahead and move that we ratify Claudia Cole to the library.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the appointment of Claudia Cole to the library board. Discussion? Yeah, I've known Claudia for many years, and certainly, as her letter indicates, spent a significant amount of time as the assistant director to the library. I know her heart's in the right place. I fully support this. Further discussion, gentlemen, comments? Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of ratifying the appointment of Claudia Cole to the Board of Directors of the West Custer County Library District, say aye. Commissioner Kanda?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Commissioner Flower votes aye. Motion carries. Mr. Sean, you now have a ratified new board member. I would also, on behalf of the commissioner, on behalf of the commissioners and our attorney, I would ask that the board look at your bylaws to see if you continue to feel it is necessary for the commissioners to ratify any of your appointments to the board.
Okay.
So,
I sent over the bylaws to Amy Molson.
yes, we have those.
And an update on July 31st. I will be emailing Kelly to take us off the agenda and add us to a later agenda where I could provide more information about the donation.
Okay, I think she understands, so she's removed you from the July 31st agenda. I don't want to speak out of turn, and certainly commissioners interrupt me if I go off the rails here, but I think the general question, Sean, is why does the board of directors feel like you need to have commissioner approval for library matters when you're your own library district? So we
For this donation specifically, the donor would like to make sure that if for any reason the library stops operating in the future, that the county would be able to take this donation.
yeah, and I would.
We wouldn't ask the county about it.
Right, okay, understood. And I would guess that would be written into whatever agreement you're going to enter into, but go ahead. Ms. Kelly has a comment.
He's talking about the 30th.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe I muddled the waters a little bit. I'll just be honest with you, Sean. I would like to have you have a conversation with your board as to why the county commissioners have anything to do with your your library district. I know the reason that we're having this conversation is because it is in your bylaws. I just wonder, on behalf of the county commissioners, do we need to be involved in that at all?
I think we would need to do some legal research on why
I agree.
the commissioners ratify our trustees before we would make that change in our bylaws.
Right, and I don't think we're asking you to make a change now. I think we're asking you to do a little research on that. Comments, commissioners?
Yeah, I agree. I kind of understand it. The other special districts are special districts. They're elected positions, et cetera. This is not. This is a county position that was set up by the county, and so there may be a legal reason why it still has to be under the umbrella of the county. So we need to take a look at it. And I like what Sean's suggesting. Let's get some data.
Yeah, I think that was the intent, absolutely. Point well taken. So with that, Sean, thank you for joining us this morning. And if you guys would just consider, that's all we're asking, to see if we want to continue to operate as your bylaws are stated or not.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And thanks for providing that updated copy. I haven't even looked at them, I just got them. 2016 was the most recent we had, so thanks for the update.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, Nate, if you would bear with us, we'd like to take a 3 or 4 minute break here. So if there are no objections, we will stand in recess for about 4 minutes.
That's fine. John, you're on too, correct? I'm on.
Okay,
We'll hold tight.
all right, I'm sorry the way the timing went. Agenda, so thank you. Okay, we will continue. The Board of County Commissioners meeting will come back to order after recess. Our next item on the agenda is discussion with Nate Eckloff and John Brits pertaining to funding mechanisms for the proposed Justice Center. Gentlemen, thank you for being on, and thank you for giving us a chance to run to the bathroom real quick. We appreciate that. So I guess I would just have an opening remark to kind of set the stage so folks understand where we're at. I think most people are aware that the commissioners have entered into a lease purchase agreement to purchase 7 acres of land adjoining the property that's adjacent to the sheriff's office and adjacent to the south from the search and rescue building for the express purpose of building a new justice center for the county to include courts, jails, sheriff's office, other offices as deemed appropriate. And so the county applied to the Underfunded Court Security Commission in Denver for a grant to hire a company to move forward on basically exploring the options of what it looks like to fund a project like this. And so that contract was let to Piper Sandler. And then subsequently a conversation with the Brits company, and I apologize, I don't have the name exactly right. I could look it up here while I'm talking, but I think for conversation's sake at this point, I'm hoping that is correct. So yesterday I had a conference call with Nate Eckloff and John Brits, who are on the phone this morning, and kind of just discussing things in general. Certainly no decisions were made other than the fact that both gentlemen agreed that they would be on the call this morning. So I hope that kind of brings everybody up to speed on where we're at. I think the commissioners would be interested in finding out and determining somehow the time, should we go ahead, what the timing looks like, and how that kind of, not really all the nuts and bolts of it, but certainly the framework. So with that, gentlemen, I would turn it over to both of you for your conversations.
Okay, well, this is Nate Eckloff, a managing director at Piper Sandler, and also on the line is John Brits, who is president of the Brits Company. And so we'll just like to have a general discussion with the county commission today about what we've been charged to do and sort of our outlook as to how we see maybe this playing out for you, and obviously be open to questions. The two things we were really charged with, predominantly, were number one, to determine what community acceptance might be for a new justice facility. And then as part of that charge, the second part of that is really evaluate the funding mechanisms available to the county. And both of those are really interrelated, because to determine community acceptance, one of the primary things we would do would be to evaluate what the community feels about their various options to pay for something like this, which in our minds would be either a sales tax or property tax, or the predominant ways available to the county to fund a new justice center. And so in chatting with Commissioner Flower the other day, we were chatting about timing of maybe when to determine community acceptance. One of the things that's come to light that I would probably ask John Brits to expand on more is what we've been finding, interestingly, in this time of the COVID-19 crisis, is community support in various areas around the state for public improvements. I think it's fair to say there was some concern about whether there would be support, but surprisingly, it's been much stronger than it's been in past years, interestingly enough, and I'll have John comment on that. So I think we'd like to talk to you about what your timing might be on determining community acceptance, but as part of that, describe what we found so far, and that might necessitate or you might desire to want to explore that community acceptance sooner rather than later. So, John, let me hand it over to you at this point to just to talk about what you found in working with other jurisdictions around the state.
Good. Hey, thank you very much. And Commissioner Flowers, Commissioner, it's a pleasure to join you all this morning, and it's a pleasure to work with you all, and hopefully you guys in a position to accomplish your needs from a Justice Center standpoint. Now, we have 111 days left in this election cycle, and, you know, often folks go, wow, that's not a lot of time to get a lot of stuff done. And one of the things that I spoke to Nate about a few days ago, and then Commissioner Flowers and Nate and I spoke a few days ago once again about, was this interesting kind of environment that's beginning to exist around the state of Colorado about investing in community-based projects in a post-COVID environment, as Nate mentioned here a second ago. Surprisingly enough, I've been doing this for 33 years, and as a Southern Colorado guy, born and raised in Pueblo, I will tell you, I'm quite surprised at some of the polling results I'm seeing around the state right now in terms of voters' acceptance and desire, and frankly, it's even stronger than that. It's open willingness to want to help us not only sustain the economy that was pre-COVID, but it's part of the solution in a post-COVID environment in order to get our economy moving forward and then ready to bust out of this once the vaccine and the entire, pandemic rectifies itself here in the next 12 to 18 months. It's amazing. Tom and I and Dave spoke about a couple of polls that I've very recently come out of the field with, one in a very large urban school district in the Denver area, and then one in a very small urban or rural school district up in the mountain counties. Both of those surveys show at this point in time that 69% of their voters are willing to increase their taxes in order to not only build the new facilities, but then to fund them for operational needs. It's uncanny. I mean, those are numbers we don't see very often, whether it be in the Denver metro area, whether it be in Pueblo and Trinidad, whether it be in Grand Junction or Durango. You don't see numbers of 69% support for tax increases usually in Colorado on a general basis. And the fact that we're beginning to see that, and then I spoke to another colleague of mine yesterday who's working with some other districts around the state, and I mentioned to him, I said, I'm seeing this oddity about these high numbers in terms of voters' willingness to engage, and he's saying we're seeing the same thing in the clients that they're working with as well, all over the state, that people are really wanting to get out there, and as I said, be a part of this solution moving forward. So in that light, one of the things is it's our responsibility on your behalf to just make you aware of that fact and, begin to have the discussion of whether or not it's prudent for us to have a conversation with you about doing some research now, even though there's only 111 days left in the cycle, to see if the same political environment exists in your neck of the woods.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Prince.
John, Nate, both of you, thank you very much for joining us and for your insight. John, I have a question specifically for you. I'm surprised, delightfully surprised to hear that the community is taking steps to help the infrastructure within the communities grow in light of COVID. It almost makes sense, let's put America first, that type of thing. But my question is, if we started this afternoon, are we even in a position to get something on the ballot in 111 days? Is that even a possibility?
Well, I did want to make sure you finished your question there, Commissioner.
I'm done.
The deadline to get something on the ballot actually is a lot sooner than 111 days. But, in terms of formulating a ballot question, getting, something on the ballot this year, certainly between Nate's experience and my private experience and a lot of the bond council individuals that we work with around the state, we work with some of the top bond council folks, in and around Colorado. They are willing and ready at a moment's notice to help you draft ballot questions. However, I'm not advocating for you guys to do something at this point in time unless the research were overwhelmingly in support of you doing something. I don't want to see you guys break your pick on scrambling and putting you in a position not to be successful. If you chose to do some research at this point in time, the research would have to be overwhelmingly in a direction of support
of a desire to be on the ballot, although telling that or announcing that to the county clerk or informing the county clerk doesn't obligate you to go forward. The county clerk under Colorado law needs 100 days notice, which is July 24th or 25th, I believe, back from November 3rd. So you'd have to give notice then, but then obviously there's some time. The next step, I believe, is 70 days before the election, and so there is some time for planning. One thing to take into consideration is how long a poll might take. So if you desire to go beyond that step of notifying the county clerk, John, let me ask you, how long would it be? How long would it take to get a poll and reasonable results for the commissioners to decide if they had any desire to try and go forward, or what community acceptance would be?
Good question, Nate, and Commissioner Flower and Nate and I spoke about it just a little bit the other day as well. In the rural school district that we recently worked with, and I'll just tell you who it is. I can't share data with you, but I can certainly tell you who it was. It was East Grand Schools up in Grand County. Very small school district, total of 7,100 voters. One of the new strategies we've used in smaller communities is begin to do some hybrid polling. We do phone calls as well as the traditional phone, calling into the households, asking if they participate in a 18 to 21 minute survey, about local issues that may be on the ballot. Then we also offer the opportunity for them to take the survey over the internet. And East Grand has the same question. If we engage you to do a poll, how long is it going to take to get it done? At the time, in order to give us a lot of wiggle room, we told them 30 days. And we actually were pleasantly surprised that voters not only wanted to take the survey, but they have the time right now to take the survey because people aren't traveling. People aren't going to, out to dinner every night. People aren't going on long camping trips. People aren't doing those things that they normally would be doing at this time of year. So what do? They're willing to get on the telephone or hop on the internet and take a 18 to 20 minute survey. And we promised them a 200 to 250 sample. The sample size actually came back well over that. It came back over at 324. So it really helped us reduce the margin of error as well. We were able to get the poll done in about 14 days, so half the time. And they're going to be making a decision tomorrow morning on whether or not they go or don't go for their ballot issues.
Commissioner,
John, do you see something similar to that for Custer County if the commission decided to do this? I'm assuming you do. I'm assuming that's what you mean by this.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, Nate, my former business partner, who you know quite well, Steve Welcher, he's working with Canyon City on an issue right now. He called me yesterday to whether or not I would recommend them doing the same strategy in Canyon on a poll that he's going to go in the field with. And I said, absolutely, because you're going to get your results quicker, probably greater, and you can make a decision on whether you go, no go in a very efficient manner.
Commissioner Kanda had a question or comment.
Yeah, I got a couple of them. Thanks for the input and thanks for being there. Every community is different, and I was going to ask you what they were about. School district has a little bit different meaning to people than a justice center or another issue to do something else. So I can see more likely they would want to support the kids as opposed to the crooks, But sometimes they understand you got to take care of the crooks first, or you can't have the kids. So. But my question is, we got money granted to us. We in danger of losing this money if we extend it. That's sort of, I want to get to that in just a second, because I don't think, from my point of view, right before the pandemic hit, we had a big tax issue pass. The school bond up here spent $20 million, whatever it was, big deal on replacing the furnace. And that kind of thing. So that issue passed, and overwhelmingly, and people were willing to pay that tax. Additionally, we had a town tax in the town of Westcliff that we were surprised, but it passed too, and it's an infrastructure deal, two of them. Silver Cliff did too, and so they spent money on fixing the roads and helping get the economy going. But then, bam, the economy fell down. everybody hid in a hole. And so now it's going to be, they're all, it's one thing to be celebrating the time to write out a survey. It's another one to think, well, how am I going to pay for it if I vote for a tax increase and I haven't got a job right now and we haven't recovered. So to me, it would make more sense to wait until we get back on track and keep in mind, this is not just a whim, like I think Tom brought up in the meeting. This is not somebody we just want to do a justice center because we think we want one. It's because we're required to have one. The state is in fact demanding that we upgrade this because of the condition that it is in. However, we have some time to deal with it. The justice center, jail part of it, and the courts. So I think we have that time. It might be an issue of the funding issue more than anything. So just some thoughts. How do we move forward? I don't think it would be wise to try to push a survey with the intent to get it on this year's ballot. It's just not enough time. And I don't think that people are of the mind to even want to take another survey and to deal with it personally. That's my impression. So what would be your options? How do you work forward from here? What was the other one you said you got a lot of positive input on? Probably was something not related to a justice center either, was it? Was it a community building or something else? Both were schools? Yeah. Okay, so that makes more sense. Anyway, that's my thought. Can you help me out there with how would you move forward? You going to bank this money and come back to us and then we get started? When would be a good time to get started if we did move forward?
Because I think you are correct and you need time to sell it to the community. I think where the survey could be very helpful, and I'd have John expand on this, is it would tell you people's tax sensitivity, and I think we're probably all guessing people are pretty tax sensitive anyway. Right. But then there might be other, if you will, thoughts or messages just in general that would be helpful, even as you would plan to go forward perhaps with an election in the fall of 2021. It'd be useful to know a year or more out, I think, what people are thinking about that project. Should we look for it? I'm guessing you would down the road. I mean, John, do you want to expand on that at all?
Well, I think Nate, I think you put it well. I think in terms of putting some more definitive date on it, the decision of the commissioners was not to proceed with doing any kind of research at this point in time. And let me reiterate what I said earlier. With 111 days left in the cycle, it would have, if you chose to do a survey right now, it would have to be so crystal clear to make a decision to go for me to even think about recommending to you. Under normal circumstances, with 111 days left, even less than that in terms of notifying the county clerk, formulating a ballot issue, there'd be really almost no scenario that I would see recommending going forward on this election year. If you chose not to go this election year, there are really two windows of opportunity to do some research. You could do it post-general election before the holidays this year. We're going to know an awful lot more about where we are in this pandemic, I think, by the early part of November in terms of where we're at, in terms of the productivity, the promise of a vaccine, how schools have come back, how people react to that, whether or not there's haven't been any more stay-at-home orders around the state, any more discussion about mask mandates, all the things that people hear every moment of every day right now, and how that impacts them. We'll certainly have a clearer view of what goes on there. If you chose not to do something in and around the middle part of November, I would then recommend that you do something in the middle to latter part of January, early part of February, because certainly even taking one more step forward, by that point in time, we'll know a lot more about vaccines.
Yeah, thank you.
Livestock grant, just curiously.
Yeah, that's what I was going to address. A couple of things. One, the grant was issued in January through December 31, 2020, but I spoke to the executive director of that commission as well as the chairman of that commission. They both assured me that due to this coronavirus, they absolutely did not see any problem with requesting and being granted an extension for that. So I think we're on pretty solid ground with that grant. As I indicated to you, I sat on that commission and we took a $1.5 million hit. No, I'm sorry, $2.5 million hit to that commission from $3 million down to $500,000 by the governor. So I don't anticipate a lot of activity in that arena, and I think they'll honor the money that they had committed this year. So the other thing I noticed, gentlemen, while you were speaking, the commissioners were nodding their head about the general idea that I think we would agree that we probably ought to wait until after the first of the year.
Roger that.
As I indicated in our conversation, one of my concerns is if and when we do a survey, for lack of better language, and that happens to come back with a negative slant, I definitely want to be able to get the feel why that was, and I know that's the part of the purpose of the survey. Was it because our voters felt like we were rushing them? Was it because they have a belly full of this coronavirus and the negative impacts on our local economy and what have you? So I agree with what you're saying, John. I think if we let the calendar flip over and get to kind of maybe a fresh start in 2021, I think then if we wanted to shoot for the ballot in November 2021, I would think that would be ample time. I'm asking if you would agree or disagree with that.
I'd agree, John.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay, I think we also got to be cautious about, well, we're going to go 2024 or whatever, and then we just keep kicking this can down the road and we lose momentum, we lose grant funding, we lose interest, and then the need just keeps mounting and mounting. And as we talk, the construction costs are going to do one thing between now and whenever, and that is go up. No question
that's
in
right.
our minds about that.
That was my concern too. We got to get momentum going, and we don't want to stop and start it. So we got to pick the right time to get it and build the momentum.
What has the state done, just curiously, as far as, it doesn't sound like it's a mandate, but is it a directive from the state, or what are you hearing? I'm just curious about what they're saying about this.
Was your question directed to me or to John? I'm sorry.
No, to you, Commissioner, or one of the commissioners.
From the Court Security Commission?
Have they just said you need to do this? Are they demanding it, or can they demand it, or are they just suggesting? I'm just curious as to how forceful that is.
Right. The Court Commission, underfunded Court Commission, is not in a position to demand that we do anything. They're in a position to say, if you need help as a small rural county, this commission is here to help you financially based on need. That whole demand side of things comes from the state via the Fed's directive to say, as they have in a not an adjoining county, but in a close proximity county, we're going to force you to close your jails, and we're going to demand that you provide jail service either by building a jail or transporting your prisoners. So that does not come from the Court Security Commission. They are a funding mechanism to help.
Okay. I was just curious because it's involved with obviously numerous financings for county jail facilities where there's either been some kind of federal or state mandate, and obviously that bears significantly on a decision.
Yeah, I can speak for us when we say we want to avoid that at all costs. We do
bet.
not want the feds telling the state of Colorado to shut down Custer County's jails.
Or to tell us how to spend the money sooner.
Yeah, but we did get from the court folks, the 11th District, that they strongly indicated to us that our one courtroom is insufficient. We need to do something to bring in at least a second courtroom. So it's not a mandate, it's a very strong suggestion.
So let's talk about let's talk about your two businesses. So not to beat around the bush, are you guys willing to sit in the wings and wait until January to move forward? I know you've done some work. Can you talk about that a little bit, where your two companies stand? Well, really, three companies.
This is Nate. I'll speak for Piper Sandler. Clearly, we'll wait in the wings on this. Obviously, we've got to meet your time concerns, your time frame, and we're more than glad to do
Not
that.
yet.
I mean, it's got to be what's right for you and the community, and so we're not here to try and force anything. So we're more than glad to wait till the early part of next year. John?
Absolutely. We're here to help you guys get done what you need to get done, whether it be today, tomorrow, or in the future.
Okay.
And Commissioner Clark, if you've got questions between now and in the middle of January, pick up the phone and call. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
To help you get ready to be successful. We don't stay in this business to lose. We stay in this business to win and get you what you need to have done.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I want to just clarify a couple things too. Piper Sandler will not be paid anything until a ballot initiative passes. If we go to the ballot and it fails, Piper Sandler is going to take one on the chin for us. We do not owe them anything. Our agreement with Piper Sandler and Brits, we will pay Brits for services rendered regardless of any outcomes, but that is not true with Piper Sandler.
That is correct. Yep. We work on a contingency basis, so that's absolutely correct, Commissioner.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So, gentlemen, your thoughts about holding off till after the first of the year versus doing something soon?
Yeah, I would like to hold off, and it wouldn't be bad if you guys, because you're willing to be proactive, ought to be proactive with us. If it looks like there's a time to begin that's right, why don't you let us know so we can consider it in a meeting? Like you might see the winds blowing, and February the 5th is the right time to get together. Would you do that for us?
Somebody's typing. It's hard to hear. I don't know. I guess clicking noise.
Yeah, that may be coming from our IT department. I thought maybe one of you gentlemen were multitasking.
I thought you were taking minutes and you're going to send them to us.
Yeah, so, Commissioner Kanda was asking if you felt like the opportunity was January or February or whenever, would you notify us about that and say, hey, based on our professionalism, we think we need to move now, or we think we need to wait and go in February, or whatever that would be.
Have a talk.
I'm going to guess John would say this too, but I think the outcome of the November election is probably going to have some bearing on timing of a survey or I guess early next winter or early next year.
Off a cliff.
Clearly whatever happens there is could have a huge impact on things. I guess the other thing I would say, this is Nate again from Piper Sandler, I would just make sure you're confirmed that you do have those funds secured, the grant funds secured going into next year, so that you guys don't get caught without those. Maybe you already have that. You feel comfortable with that assurance, but I would just want to double check that, frankly.
It's That's a great point. I was just jotting a note to our admin assistant to draft a letter to the underfunded court commission to make sure we get something in writing. That has not been done yet.
Okay.
Commissioner, the only thing I'd add is I concur with Nate. I think we should schedule a time to chat right after the election in November.
Okay.
And, kind of go County to see how that impacted you as well. And then we can talk about next steps. Because once you get into the holiday season, voters, they don't want any part of it. Who knows what the holiday season this year is going to look like? I mean, you know, I don't know about you guys all up there, but I've already had conversations with my family, both in Pueblo as well as in the Denver area, and we're wondering if we can even get together for the holidays this year.
Well, and also, you know, we have brought it up already. There's not a lot of time between November and the Christmas holiday. It's like 3 weeks or 2 weeks. So I'm not too keen on thinking we're going to do anything other than maybe get an assessment and say, see you guys in March again and let us know.
Yeah, I just made a note on my calendar. Excuse me for interrupting. I just made a note on November 16th to reach out to you, Nate, and just touch base.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think an important part of this, too, is getting a flavor for the economy there in Custer County as well, and what the whole COVID-19 crisis has done there, too, because obviously that'll have some bearing on the decision here. It'll have a bearing on voters' outlook going forward as well. So anything we can get to keep us up to date on that would be helpful just in the meantime.
Sure.
Perfect.
We may not get anything towards the end of the year, but, you know, sales tax receipts,
Right.
employment, those types of things, anything anecdotally you could provide, I think would be useful to us as well.
Correct. Great point. We've been tracking both of those, our sales tax receipts and our unemployment numbers countywide. So, yeah, I think that's a good plan. If you gentlemen concur, why I'd like to kind of wrap this up and then give us a chance to move on with our agenda, but certainly want to allow you an opportunity for any closing comments or questions, both from you guys and from the commissioners.
Well, this is Nate, and I think you as a commissioner taking a very reasoned approach to this. Obviously, putting a lot of thought and effort into the timing on this, and I think that bodes well in the long term for getting the project, which needs to be done, get it done. So I just appreciate your patience with us, and hopefully you see our patience with you, and we look forward to our continued work together, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're very welcome.
Thank you once again for allowing us to chat this morning, and everything Nate just said I concur with. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Good. Well, appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. Anything else, commissioners?
No, I'm good, and thanks. You both sound very professional. Let's see the report. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is Jay, and I just want.
Hey, John, maybe at some point you could send him a sample of some of your work from the polling side of things, from an old poll or something. I think that would be maybe something that would at least provide some insight as to what all you do in terms of gaining community knowledge and community acceptance.
Certainly, I think let me chat with East Grand and see if they're willing to share that data with them, and she'll report. That'll give you a sense of the apples to apples comparison in terms of what we're talking about.
That'd be great.
Doing, and then we can talk about that next time we chat in November.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, I think we're good on this end, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, take care. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, we will move on. Final item on the agenda as it stands is consideration of the special use project for the old golf course, doing business as Rustic Happenings.
The old golf course. Do you see how it smells?
Is Miss Jackie Hobby, are you on?
Yes.
And Chairman of the Planning Commission, are you on?
No. I answered for him.
Thank you. Give us just a second. We'll pull up the documentation.
Might be easier if she comes here.
Okay, so it's on the agenda for consideration of the SUP for the old golf course, doing business as Rustic Happenings. Do we still have a spokesperson for Rustic Happenings on the line?
Yes, Stephanie Carter is on the line.
All right, thank you, Stephanie, and I appreciate your patience. It's been a long set, so thank you. And so, Ms. Jackie, I'm assuming you're speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission for any questions, comments, or recommendations, either from us or from you?
Yes.
Okay. So we've looked at the report that you gave us. The Planning Commission is recommending that we approve this SUP.
I don't think so.
Yes.
Okay, hold on just a minute.
Well-
So under the other documents.
Looking where voted to question mark, I'm not seeing where it said approve.
No, you're on the wrong.
Am I in the wrong document?
Second here, yeah.
I apologize.
That's all right. So if you can find that report.
It was a unanimous recommendation.
Right. And under Planning Commission,
Okay, I'm there. Thank you.
we're
Voted
just,
to recommend Commissioners' approval of special use permit. 7 in favor, motion passed unanimously.
correct, yeah. So, so I would, I guess, number one, ask Ms. Stephanie if you have comments for the commissioners.
Hello, it's Stephanie again. I just really appreciate everyone helping us out through this process, as we have not done this before. And just to reiterate that the old golf course is a partnership of 6 family members. We recently purchased that property that used to be the old St. Andrews golf course. We use it as a family venue as a top priority, and we're trying to revert the grounds back into hayfields. And then we're utilizing the structure pieces for a possible venue in the future in hopes of helping to offset some of the costs to fence the place, upkeep, electrical bills, those kinds of things.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, you're aware of the 14 conditions that were recommended to us by the Planning Commission?
Yes, sir, as modified after the last meeting. I believe we're all on the same page. I haven't seen a final copy of it yet.
They were all met.
Okay, I don't have a date on this document that has the conditions on it, but I'm assuming it is the most recent. Miss Jackie, is that correct?
Yes, it's most recent.
There's
We
the
had
14.
some discussion about what we would consider on number 7 would be the holidays. And Stephanie and I worked together, and we all agreed that what Stephanie put in her email would be the holidays that they wouldn't have. Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, and the day after Thanksgiving and Christmas.
You're talking about Christmas Day.
Day after Christmas. Holiday, making it. Is what it says.
It's Christmas Day.
Okay. Yeah, the day after Thanksgiving and then Christmas Day.
Only. It came across like it was the day after.
Oh, okay, I'll put day on the end of that.
If that's what the intent was, I'm asking.
Yes, the intent was just Christmas Day.
Not the day after Christmas.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, I think it might be helpful.
Yeah, it implies the day after.
And so, Stephanie, you guys, as you indicated, you're fine with these conditions?
Correct.
Thank you. Questions or comments, commissioners?
It looks like, to me, it looks like a worthwhile project. I think it's great, and if we approve this, I wish you the best of luck.
So I had a question on number 14. I just thought that the number articulated there was kind of interesting. Can either one of you speak to that? 2 RVs or tents? I was a little surprised about the number 2.
The planning commission decided that since the Lake Deweese was so close, all the other recreational vehicles should be located there. And the 2 recreational vehicles allowed would be for the bride and for the groom.
Okay, so there could be 1 RV and 1 tent for a total of 2 or 2 each?
For a total of 2.
Okay,
Our zoning regs, a recreational is tents, yurts,
And all those would be eligible under number 14, limited to the number of 2?
Correct.
Thank you.
I move we accept the
Recommendation.
I want to approve the special use permit for the what's it
Old
described
golf
as? The
course.
old golf course
Doing
rustic
business.
happenings.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the special use permit as recommended by the Planning Commission for the old golf course doing business as Rustic Happenings. Further discussion? I visited with Miss Jackie a little bit about this. Stephanie, she certainly, as has the chairman of the Planning Commission, commended you on your work on this and the spirit of working with the Planning Commission to make this happen. So I thank you as well.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome, and I know the adjoining landowners, the only concern they had to do with the holidays, and you were more than willing to accommodate those concerns, so appreciate that. Further discussion? Are there any public comments? That would include you as well, Stephanie. If you have anything else, you're more than welcome to speak.
Okay, I think I'm good right now.
Thank you. Other public comment?
I would like to comment and tell you that this application for this SUP was one of the better applications and that we have presented to the board, and that Stephanie did a fabulous job, and that everything was clear, and it seems like it will be an easy solution to this property, and that they're willing to do whatever is required of them.
Okay, thank you. Just on a quick light side note, Stephanie, a friend of mine and I were tasked with the job of going in and establishing the proposed fairways with haying equipment when that golf course originally opened up. And so I just smiled to myself when you made the comment that you were going to reestablish those hay fields. I guess I was part and parcel to opening those hay fields up back, I think, in '91 or whenever that was. So
Looking at bucking some bales on them now?
yeah. Yeah. Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving the special use permit for the old golf course doing business as Rustic Happenings, say aye. Commissioner Kanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Prince?
Aye.
Commissioner Flower votes aye. That SUP has been approved. Thank you, Jackie, for your work, and Stephanie for yours as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, any additional items to come before the board?
Not by me, sir.
Commissioner Kanda?
None here.
Nor do I. Any final public comment come before the commissioners? Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second. I'm sorry.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.